I'm going to share this with all of you. I didn't even tell you all this last night, but I woke up last night and it was bothering me, what y'all are facing it. And it's tough. But what you're trying to do, folks, is preserve your cow herd. And I know you want grass-finished beeves, but that grass-finished herd is killing you. That's because they don't have babies in them. You heard me say they're the most expendable item you have. And I know you got meat and you got customers and all that. I would really be looking for a place to put those. Maybe find somebody you could custom graze around here, even if you had to haul them 50, 75, 100 miles, whatever, get them off this farm. You've got some pretty nice cows out here. You're going to run out of grass, and you're going to be feeding hay for 7 to 8 months. That's what's going to happen. Because that grass that got flooded down there, you all didn't see it yet, but I did. It's not going to come back for a while. It's going to take you possibly 3 to 4 months to get green out there. It's just fouled. It smells, all the oxygen's out of the ground. It's anaerobic. There's stuff dying out there. So it's going to take a while. But it'll come back. But I just don't want to see you all get in a position where everything's getting thin, your pastures are wore out, you're approaching winter now you got to feed hay all winter. Mm-hmm. That's not a pleasant place to be. When you get in a drought and your plants haven't recovered from the previous grazing.
And what's recovering? What's the term for recovery?
Well, recovery is going back to a plant tip. In other words, it's been grazed off, you go back and measure it 30 days later and the plant hasn't grown 1 inch. You should do that. If you're first starting out in the spring, wherever you started grazing, drive a wooden stake out there and take a magic marker and write the date on it and the height of that grass. Go back and check that every week. If you're in a drought and you grazed that off and it hasn't grown back in 30 days, you need to start selling some animals. You should sell 10% off the bottom. Get rid of 10% of your animals. The next thing you need to do is combine your herds. If you've got 2 or 3 herds, get them together quickly. If you've got steers, get rid of them. Just don't even think about it. Just get rid of them. You're trying to preserve your farm because you're looking at the whole growing season in front of you and it's in June, July, and all of a sudden things aren't growing back. You can't keep your head in the sand. And I tell people, praying, there's nothing wrong with praying, but it's not a good management strategy. You have got to plan for what you know. You know the plants aren't growing back, by golly, and you know you can get rid of some animals. That's going to immediately help you. And don't throw all the gates open. I made that mistake my first year. I ever owned cattle. I'm like, heck, I got some more pasture. I'll just give them that too. It'll be better. When you open up the gates to your farm and just let the cows start having all of it, what you have said is, I give up. I give up. I'm done. Because that's what's happened. You are done. The cattle will absolutely strip your entire farm.
A recovered plant.
Yep. This is one they're not going to eat very well. It's an old water plant. It's not very palatable, but they should have a minimum of 4 leaves. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that one would be safe to graze. Okay. On fescue, you're going to have 4. You like to see the plant tips on there. The thing about drought, so people think that it's going to rain. I used to do it. I'm like, oh, it'll be all right. We're going to get a rain. I'm an optimistic person. It's going to rain. What if it doesn't? In 2012 was probably the worst drought in Missouri. Well, it was the worst one measured in Missouri history. That was also our most profitable year. Did y'all hear that? We didn't get any government assistance, even though it was there. We could have got it. But we just sold animals when they needed to be sold. Folks, if you sell early, you get a good price. If you wait and think, okay, this drought's going to get better, the drought's going to get better, we're going to get a rain, what happens is the feed supply is shrinking. The supply at the sale barns is exploding, and nobody wants your cattle.
The price of feed's going up.
The price of feed's going up. The price of cattle are going down. Don't get in that boat. But here's the other argument I get all the time, and it's, I'll tell you what you're going to hear. Well, but what if I sell 10% of my herd? the ones that should have been sold, the bad teeth, the bad feet, the long hair, the woolly ones, whatever. And it rains tomorrow. I didn't need to sell them. So what? You can build those back, but you got rid of some that should have went anyway. So it's not the end of the world. You still got your cow herd intact, and it rained. You're going to have more grass. At least you had the nerve to pull the trigger. Most people won't. Most people just hunker down and they'll wait for it to rain, and boy, it'll kill you, folks. It'll absolutely kill you. So be brave. Act early, but you won't know when to act unless you're monitoring. You need to be monitoring the grass behind you. Where you start in the spring, watch that grass. If it's not coming back, you need to do something pretty darn quick. But the strongest tool in your toolbox is rest. When you get in a drought, let's say like right now, our last rotation on Judy Farms, we went around all of them in about 35 to 40 days. That first one in the spring, we were at 28. In the drought of 2012, we went 107 days. We were able to go 107 days before we returned to where we started. And we got Hurricane Isaac that fall. It hit September 3rd, Hurricane Isaac. Well, it whammed you all down in here, but we got all the rain effect up our way. We got 9 inches. We got 9 inches in over about 3 days. It absolutely saved us. You know why it saved us? Because we didn't overgraze our farm. We still had residue. It was all brown, but it was about that tall across all of our farms. And instantly overnight, it turned green and it started growing, and we had winter stockpile. All my neighbors looked like that because they hadn't destocked any. They don't graze correctly to begin with. And I mean, they were out of feed. And when that rain came, all it did is it just ran off their land down to the creeks and ended up in the Pacific Ocean. So if you can keep residue on your farm, it's not how much rain you get, it's how much you keep. That's the importance of building a litter bank. If you don't have a litter bank on your farm, shame on you. Open up your grass and look down. There should be some dry stuff laying on top of the ground. That's the future of your farm, is the litter bank. So try and get that trampled on the ground. And I didn't finish my talk about the droughts. When you have 40% of your farm withheld from grazing, because that's your sacred hayfield, that kills you in your drought period. So if you've got a hayfield, it's usually going to be your best land, because that's the easiest part to get the machinery over. But Greg, I can't graze it. Why? Well, I don't have any water. Okay, that's not an excuse. Put water in there. Or build a lane temporary. Let them walk back to your general farm to get a drink. Well, I don't have any fence. I'm sorry, that's not an excuse either. Get some polywire. Put a polywire around it. But get that darn hayfield into a paddock.